I said, well, if getting the parenting time is the most important thing to you and you can have other things you can trade for that, and the two of you are able to reach agreement around those issues, and that's what you care about, then yeah, then if the money's not life altering for you and you'd rather trade that for the parenting plan, or you'd rather trade money and have less parenting time, or whatever the thing is for you, then yeah, do it. And she said to me, you are the only person that says this. She said, I've got all these people around me, friends, family, attorneys, and all these different people. And everybody is saying, oh, you got to
go for the money.
Yeah, you got to get as much money as you
can. Show me
the
money.
Get the money. Why aren't you going after the money? It's so unfair. And he owes you all this money. This is half yours, blah, blah, blah. And, she's going, I'm not really, because her focus, let me say it this way, her focus is in the right place.
Yeah.
The thing she cares about the most is the children. And sometimes people say that or think they're most focused, that's their top priority, but their behavior doesn't reflect that.
Yeah.
So if you're saying you're all about the kids, but all you're doing is focusing on the financial aspect, you probably need to check your motives.
Right.
And so.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's not a judgment on what your value is. It's just an awareness of where that value lies for you.
Right.
So like a lot of times with dads, when they say, oh, I want 50-50 custody because that's what's fair. Well, again, back to the title of the episode, what's that worth to you?
Right.
What if you get 50-50 custody, but one, it starts destroying your career. You can't financially support your family. You got to have a nanny there who's taking care of them half the time, and it's not even you anyway. Why are those things better than just letting mom have more time?
Right. And a lot of times if your identity and your purpose in life is to run a huge company, it might not make sense for you to have quote unquote 50-50. It may make more sense to parent on weekends when you have the time off, and show your kids by example what hard work pays off.
Right.
How hard work pays off, I should say.
Right. And so everything has a flip side. The reason I really wanted to talk about this topic is because I don't want you to let the court system or the attorney or whatever expert you're working with lead you down the path of what it should be worth for you.
Yeah, true.
What it's worth for you is what it's worth for you. For some people, they have so much anxiety around the finances and the financial security that they would never make the trade that my other client made, because they wouldn't be able to manage their life or provide for the kids or any of that. So they're stuck in this situation where they're like, I've got to get the financial gain. But know that the trade-off for that is that it's going to make the relationships harder. It's going to make the litigation longer, more expensive. And if you're in a 50-50 custody situation, maybe that's where it's going to stay because you're doing everything right down the middle. And I think the biggest takeaway is understanding that there are intangibles in every case.
Right.
And not only are there intangibles in every case, there are different intangibles.
What do you mean intangibles?
In every case.
What does that mean?
That's your word.
I know. I'm asking you to define it.
Okay.
I've already told you what it means. I'm asking you to tell me what you've learned.
This is a test. Is that what you're saying? So the intangibles are the things like extra time with your kids, or the ongoing relationship with your ex-spouse.
How about flexibility? Like
the amount of peace you have in your life.
Like it's been a long time since I've had to get up and go to the office.
Right.
And that's a huge intangible. Right. I mean, that's a huge, that's a plus as far as our life satisfaction is concerned. Yeah. Is if I don't have a court appearance, I'm probably sitting in my pajamas talking to you. And
I'm
that's cool.
I'm not sure that's a picture we need. You look good in the suit.
Yeah, I do.
You look good in your pajamas too.
No, I like wearing the suit. I like going to the office, but it's one of the intangibles of our situation is that we dictate our hours, and we dictate our own schedule, and frankly we dictate our net worth. I mean, we don't have any ceiling. Like I don't have to go in and ask for a raise.
Right.
I just, if I put in some extra work, the benefit comes back to us.
Right. And that's one of the things that we looked at when you were the managing partner as well. Maintaining managing partner status is probably 60 hours a week at least.
Yeah.
Even at that stage of your career. And it's like, we didn't want to make that sacrifice where our family was concerned. It was more important to be present, especially with the children your children being so young. It was more important to be present. And it's interesting because my older son was 15 at the time of the divorce. So by the time I started working in the practice, he had graduated. So I really wasn't home like that with him. But with my younger one, I was home once he started high school. From then on, I was home. And it just made a huge difference in the level of participation, involvement, and everything and connection that I was able to have with him because I was there.
Right. Yeah.
And so especially with teenagers, I think even it can make a big, big difference. But, we tend to sort of get stuck on, tit for tat, when we're negotiating, or like Thomas said the other day, you're trying to hold on to this as a bargaining chip so that if you have it, you can trade it for something else the other person wants. And that's an approach that attorneys take to cases as well. Right.
It's kind of like you watch the ads on TV. Larry Parker got me $8 million, and you see it's a headshot.
Right.
And you can't tell that the guy's in a wheelchair.
Right.
I mean, the thing is, getting you $8 million is not necessarily such a great thing. It'd probably be better if he could walk like he used to walk before the accident.
Right.
And so forth. But attorneys tend to see the value of their services as how much can I get for you?
Right. Right. And that's one of the things I think that we really do differently in our practice, which is that we don't just, a lot of attorneys, especially larger firms, just take whatever the client says they want, and they just advocate as strongly as they can for that thing, whatever the client wants. And that's one approach to it. But again, that approach doesn't consider any of the intangibles of the family unit, the family relationships, or any of those aspects of the case, or frankly, your financial situation. If you have 50 grand sitting in the bank, but that's your only 50 grand, as long as there's 50 grand sitting there that the attorney can be paid with, the attorney doesn't really, the rest of it's not really their problem.
Right. Right.
But you're going to be the one that's out of the money.
That should be in my trust account.
So, it's like you're looking at everything from, when you have an attorney that's advocating like that, from the perspective of, what does my client want? Let me just translate that over. Well, to me, the point of having legal counsel is to have advice on how to do this well. What is it that you see that destroys families? What is it that you see that destroys finances? What is it that you see that destroys people's happiness and joy, and all those types of things? And that's wisdom that we've learned through 12 years of doing this. And so what you really have to do is get to know your client, figure out what's important to them, and then help them understand why their behaviors or requests or ways they want you to advocate for them either help or hurt that value system.
There you go.
Does that make sense? Like, we have a client right now who's all about being dad, and he's a fantastic dad, and he really wants more time with his child. And all things being equal, he should have that, but he's approaching it in a very aggressive way that's sort of backfiring on him.
Right.
So we have two options. We could either just go, oh yeah, let's go. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to advocate that for you. Boom, 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 boom. And not that there isn't some of that. There is some of that. But there's a limit on how effective that can be. And if you overuse it and it's your whole approach to the entire case is just bulldozing, you're not going to get anywhere, especially the judge we're in front of on this, because we know his philosophies very well, because Thomas has worked in front of him for a long time. So you have to go back and say to the client, okay, let's pick our battles.
Right.
Let's decide which of those things we really need to push on that could really get us some leverage in the case. And let's decide which things we need to kind of take a little bit more indirect approach, maybe through how we're dealing with mom or how we're communicating and that type of thing. And your attorney should be advising you on that, on how to, they shouldn't, if you have somebody that's just taking whatever you say and just running with it, that's probably not really a good situation for you.
Yeah.
It feels good in the short term.
Yeah.
It feels really good in the short term, and that's why. But in the long term, it really doesn't solve the problem, and it ends up creating more problems than it's worth.
There you go.
That's why the whole game is, what is it worth? And not just what is it worth in general, what is it worth to you? Are you really willing to make those sacrifices and to sacrifice the various intangibles and financial aspect and time with your kids and whatever else the sacrifice is going to be in order to accomplish this goal? Because we're not going to get everything we want.
Yeah, I think people get trapped into what's fair. Oh, I want what's fair. And they haven't really done this calculation that takes into consideration all the intangibles. And what I advise people to do at the very beginning is to take a step back and look at their lives and decide, what do I want my life to look like after this is over?
Right.
What do I want it to look like 5 years from now? Do I want to still be dependent financially on the moneyed spouse, or would I rather be independent and taking care of myself? What kind of example do I want to set for my kids? What kind of spiritual life do I want? What kind of what do I want to do for fun, and what are my hobbies, and so forth? And when you see it in that perspective, suddenly all the minor decisions that you make during the course of the case fall into place.
Right.
It's, my ex is offering me more time with my kids, but he's concerned about support. Well, how much do I need the support, and how much do I value that extra time?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, sometimes I've seen people do things like where, oh, okay, we'll have, 50-50 on paper on the parenting plan, but we know in reality that, dad isn't going to be able to fulfill that whole thing because of his career. Yeah. Or I've seen the opposite where dads say, well, I want more parenting time, but I'll pay based on the higher, I want 50-50, but I'll pay based on 70-30,
right?
To get that parenting time. And I think when you have, bless you, people that are really clear on what's important to them and what their values are. And again, this isn't about telling you should have more parenting time, less parenting time, more money, less money. Yeah. Keep the family home, don't keep the family home, trade the couch for the desk. It's not about should you do those things. It's about what's important to you, and then learning how to pick those battles,
right? Because
you're not going to get everything. You're going to have to make concessions. So you got to know where your concession points are. Right. What is non-negotiable for you.
Right. I remember I asked a lady in mediation one time, we were mediating, and I got her in the other room because we were doing what's called a caucus meeting, where you meet with the parties separately. And the issue was support. And I said to her, how much do you need? And she said, I need what's fair. Well,
she said, I don't know. I just want what's fair.
I just want what's fair. Well, what do you want? Well, I want the guideline support calculation. Well, how much do you need to make your monthly expenses? And this person hadn't given that any thought.
Right.
It's a lot easier to negotiate a support figure if you know what it is that you need for support.
Right. Right. If you can't even tell me what your monthly bills are, I mean, what the calculation would be, it might be $1,000 more than you need a month to pay your bills, or it might be $1,000 less a month than you need to pay your bills. So let's figure out what's realistic for the family and how we're going to cover everybody.
Right.
And make it happen, and sometimes you can negotiate different aspects of it. Like in this particular case, it's like, well, she needed a certain amount, and the once we kind of got down to numbers, the support wasn't quite enough, but it's like, well, let's not forget there's a business to equalize, and there's no cash to equalize it. So if we add in a payment for the business each month, suddenly we start getting her into the window that she needs,
right,
to make her monthly support payment. So
right.
There's creative things that you can do that experts can help you do, but you've got to have the knowledge and the information, and again, know what your non-negotiables are.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right. So thanks so much for joining us. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you are notified when more videos come out. If you're listening to us on the podcast, don't forget to rate and review us wherever you're listening to us. Helps us, helps increase our reach, helps us help more people. So please make sure you do that. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.